5, 3, 4, 2, 1.
Does this dude know how to count? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for another episode 19 of American Lunchbox Podcast.
How's that go again?
Podcast. You guys, Tim asked for a second one, so he gets what he asked for. What's going on, guys? How are you guys doing this week?
Good.
Everything's all right. Well, you listen. It's been a week. It's been a week, and we are working through quite a few things. But definitely, since we have been on the lockdown due to the COVID, we've had quite a bit of time to be able to do different things that we maybe had done before, but now we're doing again. Now, if you remember last week, guys, if you watched the podcast, episode 18, go back and listen to it. At the very end, we did some very salutable shout outs. But if you remember, Tim over here did a salutable shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, you know what? Let me just kick it over to Tim, because I think he may have fucked it up for him. So Tim, what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers? What's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
They were undefeated for the entire season. I think they were 10-0 for the first time in franchise history, and unfortunately now I think they had a couple players that tested positive for COVID, and I think one of the coaches, and so now their game keeps getting delayed. The latest one right now is it looks like their next game's not going to be played until, looking at Wednesday or Tuesday, December the 8th. And we're currently recording the show on the 2nd. So, I don't think maybe I jinxed them. I don't know.
I don't know what you did, but you left the show with so much steam, your wife and bamming and breaking up computers and stuff. And all of a sudden we come back the next week, and now they can't play because someone has decided.
She's pissed about it. She can't stand it, which is hilarious. But it's funny because she's like one of the biggest proponents of everyone's social distancing and taking precautions to keep the spread of COVID down. And she's always yelling at newscasters and anybody who's not wearing a mask properly. She'll sit there and yell and scream at them, but get in the way of her football. And it's like, oh, it's game over now, man. She's like, fucking COVID. God damn it.
Well, hey, man, I'm not sure how they're doing. I know they're not doing the bubble system like the NBA.
They're not.
I know they're not doing the bubble system, and I realize that 64 guys on a team, it would be hard to figure out with 18 teams, I believe, how to figure out how to house them and it's a lot of logistics there that the NFL would have to figure out in order to even consider that. But keep us posted on that Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to come back to you on that one. Hopefully next time we meet, we'll be able to see if they can keep the dream alive, keep it going 11-0. I mean, I don't think they're going to have a big problem with the Ravens, but you never know. The Ravens defense can be quite outstanding when they want to be. So, but hey, who knows? What else was there out there this week for us? Now, back in episode 2 of American Lunchbox Podcast, we had a sports episode, and we talked about it, and that was 21 weeks ago, I think. We talked about the Mike Tyson and the Mike Tyson fight, and finally this weekend we were able to actually see the fight. Now I gotta say, I didn't see the fight, okay, but I'm a nerd. I read the fight line by line, round by round, because I like to see it in my head. So I read the fight line by line, as if someone were telling me the fight as it was going. And I saw
George. I gotta say, man, that I read it too. That comma splice in the second paragraph, man, that took my breath away. I can't believe they got away with that one.
Fucking asshole, Tim. I'm an
asshole.
Funny.
That's the way it is.
Yes. And as I was reading the fight, and I understood that there was a lot going on that made sense to me that didn't make sense to me before. Because you got to understand, these guys are old enough now to, first of all, not be fighting. It was a benefit fight. It was a fight that was being marketed, though, as a comeback fight for Tyson. And realistically, it really wasn't. It wasn't a comeback fight. It really was just a fight for two guys. There was no belt involved, and they fought like they had nothing. In my opinion, they fought like they had nothing to lose and nothing to gain. So the fight for me was pretty average. Matter of fact, it was actually very boring for it to be a top card fight. But again, Chris, you saw the fight.
Yes.
You saw the fight. Tell us what you saw and what I read. Tell us how. What is your take from the fight?
Okay, I guess there was the fight and there was the spectacle. So what do you want first?
I like spectacles, man. Give me the spectacle first.
Okay, so the spectacle was that this fight was in an empty arena. Didn't have to be, but I guess the thing is, this fight only came about due to COVID, so it is what it is, right? Like, it's not like this fight would have happened if not for COVID. However, by choosing to do it in the state of California, you now put yourself in a position where no one could be live in the crowd for energy levels for the fight. But they did the best they could in terms of TV presentation. The ring and the surrounding environments were really nice. It was really, it was like jet black with white, almost like long fluorescence. The ropes were all pearly white as well. So, hitting this all with a white light really made it pop in terms of like, it almost looked like it reminded me of when Muhammad Ali did that computerized fight with Marciano, that filmed event, in that you had this empty arena, kind of otherworldly feeling, and you had these two guys who were both, legendary fighters coming out, and it wasn't just them though. Snoop Dogg was there. He did a long performance right before, and he did some commentary. Some people were saying he actually had a lot more stamina than Roy Jones did. There was also the YouTube sort of thing there, the Jake Paul, and he was fighting Nate Robinson. Supposed to rematch that KSI guy, but that didn't happen because that guy's from Britain and the COVID stuff. But you look at it and you're like, oh, this is not for real. But then you realize that there are younger people who are watching this and they never saw Tyson fight. So for them, this was the first time they saw that. And, the YouTube thing kind of maybe is the hook to get them involved. So I mean, I don't know if it's bad for like the growth of boxing or whatever, to have these spectacle type events. The fight itself, you're right, was kind of, I could go through the fight if you want.
Yeah, go through it. Let me know what happened. So
Tyson was in control pretty much the whole time. Part of that, Roy Jones had admitted beforehand that he thought he was going to fight Tyson on 6 weeks' notice. That's the original contract they signed. And then he thought he could take him because he was much more ring ready. Well, it turns out they kicked the fight back 2 more months, so now Tyson had 2 more months to train. And Roy Jones said, uh-oh, Tyson's the bigger guy. And it's really more of a styles mismatch. So in boxing, you have a slugger, who's your, Rocky Balboa type guy. You have your boxer, your puncher, your Mayweather type. And you have your infighter, which is the person that rides in and stays on you. So technically, the way that it works in boxing is that a boxer will beat a slugger because they'll keep jabbing him and dodging shots. But an infighter will beat a boxer because they'll keep in on them and keep chasing them and make them run out of breath. And then, of course, the slugger will knock the infighter's head off because the infighter will come in and get knocked out by the slugger. So there's kind of like a triangle sort of styles effect. And Roy Jones was a boxer in terms of style, and Tyson was a infighter. And the styles mismatch was felt early and often. First round, Tyson just chased him down, got him out of breath. Jones wasn't out of shape looking, but was huffing and puffing by the end of the first round. Second round, now that he had him tired, he started working on the body. Did so the rest of the fight. Took a couple headshots, missed. Jones was smart enough of a boxer to, and professional enough to like lock him up and calm Tyson down, and also dodged the headshots and also survived the body shots. You're right, though, George. This was Roy Jones was there was nothing. These guys were paid in advance, and Roy Jones was at that point just trying to hold on. The 2-minute rounds probably helped, because if it went 3 minutes, Tyson probably could have got him down once or twice, in my opinion. But then in the later rounds, I said, okay, now he's really beating him up at the body. Tyson's gonna rev up in the 7th, hit him hard in the 8th. Well, Tyson did rev up in the 7th, but he either was out of gas or didn't have that killer instinct really to take him out in the 8th. So the 8th round is really where, if people were tuning in to see that classic moment, that was actually kind of missed, because the ref was allowing the lockups, and Jones was just evasive and survivalist. And Mike Tyson, I'm thinking he either got a little gassed at the end, even though he was in great shape, or it's just the fact that he said, you know what, we're both dads. Christmas is coming up. I'm not trying to embarrass this guy. And it could have been that. And with that being said, it was still great to see Tyson move around and fight in the ring. You know, I watched it with my little brother, who was like, this is like the best fight of my life. And I was like, dude, I was like, I could recommend you some other, heavyweight divisions real good right now. There's other divisions that are good right now. But, it was really cool, actually, for him to experience that once in his lifetime, to see Tyson fight, because, he is a special fighter, Tyson. And he is an iconic fighter and iconic American.
Absolutely. He has had his evolution through the public's eye. He's one of those kids who came up very early in life in the spotlight, and has really risen to the point where he now is the people's champion. He wasn't always that way. He's had its problems. He's had his relationship issues, all in the public eye. He actually, grew up in the public eye, made mistakes that money and lack of self-discipline outside of the ring created for himself. And because of that, he gave us more outside of the ring to be entertained with than inside the ring at a certain point. And then he became the Tyson that we know now, which is the calm, more gentle Tyson that we just love. I mean, you and I both know Tyson, Tim as well, because Tyson has a very funny cartoon that we all like to watch. And that's a great show. That's a great show. It's on Adult Swim. We won't dox a name here, but he has a very, and we love this show. We love this show.
Plus, he was great in the Hangover series, and so he's made a really good name for himself outside of the ring lately.
And it was good to see him. So, like you're saying, he was physically, then he was mentally well. This was probably the first time I saw him so mentally and physically well at the same time, which was really cool to see.
That's right, and he admitted the 2-minute rounds kind of frustrated him, as far as being able to deliver those closing punches for him. But he also admitted that this was not a title bout in no way, form, or fashion, and this was for charity. So this was not for us to go out there and win as if we're going to be given belts at the end. And again, I think that I don't know if the judging was fair. That's interesting. I don't know if it really was a draw, to be honest with you. I didn't see the fight. I will see it this weekend, but I don't think it was a draw. I think Tyson won the fight, and I think they just handed out draws because it was close enough to do that. But what do you think, Chris?
This is where the controversy comes in. So, okay, it was ruled a draw. Well, what does that mean? It could mean a couple different things. It could mean, in boxing, here's the problem with boxing, even though the sport is good, the surrounding infrastructure of the sport is, rotten. I probably trust that less than mail-in ballots, but that's another story. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so here's what happened. It was ruled a draw, and you said, huh? Because all the things you just said, George, are nice, but that's not how the fight was marketed. The fight was marketed as Tyson coming to kill someone. Because that's what people want to see, because that's what people pay to watch a Tyson fight. Tyson came out in his classic gear, the high shorts and the low socks, looking like, Roman Gladiator, or just, that raw physicality shown in like 80s sports. what happened then is that Tyson dominated the fight. Jones maybe won a round from what I could see. Maybe 2, maybe. But no, Tyson was in control the entire time, getting 10, and getting a ton more shots in. Now, a few reasons it could have been a draw. Number one, this was in California. You're dealing with the athletic commissions with boxing. The California State Athletic Commission said that this was, and they said this on the mic beforehand too, that this was actually a heavy sparring contest, and that opponents should not be going for knockouts. But then the fighters came out and said, no, we're going for an anyway. Who knows? So there was a back and forth behind the scenes in the days leading up to fight as to what the rules are. And that's incredibly confusing for the referee, who doesn't know if he should listen to the athletic commission or the fight promoters. So the draw could have been just due to the fact that how could you have a winner in a sparring contest where no knockouts are allowed or something? Another reason could have been, like what you're saying, the charitable stuff, that this was, based on the reactions, it seems like they knew it was going to be a draw before the damn thing started. Another thing could be betting. People were betting on Tyson in multiple states through DraftKings regardless. And a draw means you don't have to pay him. And then there could be the judges, although based on what I saw, they had remote judges in from the WBC. I think they scored it 2-1 for Tyson. I think that's right. I could recheck that fact, but maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Either way, it was a draw, and it was a letdown because the entire thing felt half pregnant. The entire event felt half pregnant. A lot of the things that were promised were not delivered on, and based on someone who's watched all of Tyson's previous knockouts and a lot of his fights, you were expecting something, but if you were someone who never saw this before, it was probably a discount at $50. It looked like they were trying to hype it up for a rematch. I don't think that will be happening. Maybe people want to see Tyson fight again, not fight with Jones again.
I don't think it'll happen. Tyson said he does have plans for more exhibition fights, for more charitable organizations. Roy will not get back in the ring. Roy really didn't want to do this. And he's happy that he made it through.
And he didn't even really get paid that much. I only got paid like $3 million. Roy Jones.
Well,
but he was paid in advance.
Yeah,
he was paid in advance, right? He was paid in advance, and again,
at least that's how he.
Tyson got paid $10 million to spar, so or his charity did anyway. So, I mean, that's pretty good. He gets a lot of media hype out of it. It was a winner for him. Chris, let me ask you this question for you followed more of his fights than I probably have. I remember there was one fight, I can't remember what it was, but it was where it was like, I think Tyson knocked out the dude in the first round or whatever, like in the first 2 minutes, and people were complaining. It was like, oh, I got, I paid, up to $1 million or thousands of dollars to sit there and get tickets for this fight, and the guy got knocked out in the first round. I mean, at least this one went 8 rounds. Did you feel that you would have gotten your money's worth if you had attended this?
Right. Well, no one attended this, but I do see what you're saying. Yeah, like it's the Ronda Rousey thing. Wait till it hits Twitter. The 10-second clip, right? I see what you're saying. In the case of Tyson, though, I think people... So like there's who you are and there's the role that society wants you to be. And I for whatever reason, people want to see that killer. So I don't know if they would have been that upset if he just knocked him out, but I do see your point. There was more value in the going the distance, and if anything, I think people might have felt cheated that it didn't go longer because there was only 3 rounds and only 3 minutes. Oh, excuse me, It wasn't 3 minutes; it was 2 minutes, and it was only 8 rounds instead of the 12. Standard now is 12.
But really, what this is a indication of is the state of boxing. We watched 50 so fights from Mayweather with no killer instinct. We watched him for the most part, at least in the latter 20 fights, just run around the ring and jab and jab and jab, and no one can get to him. And though he probably is the best technical boxer ever lived, technically, it was just not a show for warriors. It was not a good entertaining show for people who are used to looking at a Tyson fight or a heavyweight fight for that matter, or what would be a Sugar Ray Leonard, or someone who's willing to at a certain point drop the gloves and let's get it on right now kind of mentality. So, and for the marketing to have been in a way that I was impressed with what Tyson was doing. I was impressed by what I was seeing. Getting close to his age myself, I was just impressed by what he was doing in the ring and getting prepared for this fight, and thought that it would be a great opportunity for him to just show the people or show everyone what you can do at this age. And that's what I was looking forward to seeing. The marketing gave me the idea. It gave me the idea that Tyson, and even Tyson said it, in a couple of interviews. But marketing is marketing. Marketing does the job of getting you to buy the fight. It's different, of course, like you said, when you get behind the scenes and you start looking at the rules, you start looking at the date, you start looking at the arena, you start looking at the judges, you start looking at all of the spectacle, all of what it takes to get the fight going. And you say to yourself, again, we go back to the conspiracy. It's like, wait a minute, maybe this was all put together for us to be able to have this moment, but really it's not the moment that we are paying for or expected.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson, I don't think Tyson disappointed, especially for his age. When you pan the camera far away, it looked like they were in great shape. When you came up close, then you see the wrinkles. And that's just natural. I mean, we want to remember them as being 30 in their prime, and they're not. And this is kind of like the one last chance, at least that's the way it was billed, in order to relive that. Now it came about due to COVID. However, we do have right now a very good, diverse mix of styles and great levels of talent in the heavyweight division. Some of it was put on pause due to COVID, but it would be this probably would be a more pivotal event if the heavyweight division wasn't so strong right now. Because if you watched all the fights in the last 5 years, you'd be like, wow, those were great. And then this does somewhat look like Drunken Uncle fight, which that's cool. I'll watch Mike Tyson fight as Drunken Uncle.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't think I want to watch him fight Roy Jones again as Drunken Uncle.
I want to see him fight a tiger. I think that'd be. I think Mike Tyson versus Tiger King. I think that would be great. I'd watch that.
That'd be a good benefit show.
Tyson's tiger versus versus the Tiger King's tiger.
Well, I think Carol Baskin has more of a killer instinct than Tyson at this point.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Really.
Don't sue me, Carol. She's very litigious.
Could be anywhere. Could be anywhere. Watch her, man. That's it. She may be knocking at your door.
I'll be walking down the street here. Is that leopard print head to toe? Oh no! I think I know who it is.
Carol
now,
Baskin.
Okay, so at the end of the day, Tyson, there was a draw. We move forward. Tyson's already said that he looks forward to doing more exhibition fights to raise more money. And be mindful, only a proceeds of the dollars go to only a certain amount of dollars go to the organization of their choice. But as we move forward, there was some interesting revelations also in entertainment that I wanted to discuss with you guys. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch, but there's been some a new boycott being asked to come about in entertainment for something that I thought was quite unusual. I came across my Instagram the other day. Shout out to Ray of Morning Sun. Sent me a very interesting video clip of Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle is asking that you all, me included, and everyone else, boycott his show, not the network. Boycott his show, the Chappelle Show, because of the crappy contract that he signed in the time where he felt most vulnerable in his early 20s. And now HBO as he says, who he pitched the show to originally, now they want to stream the show. And he's asking that we, his fans, because I'm a huge fan of Dave Chappelle, he's asking his fans to not watch the show on that channel and to force what sounds like Comedy Central to come back to the table and talk about either renegotiating the contract and even possibly doing more Dave Chappelle shows. I mean, what did you guys get? Did you guys watch this thing?
Yeah, I did.
Saw
Tim,
it.
Good.
Tim, what did you gather from it, Tim?
Well, first of all, I thought the audience was just kind of like, they didn't know what to expect from him because they just kind of thought it was a comedy bit or whatever, and they kept applauding at the worst possible time because he's sitting there trying to tell the audience how he basically got screwed out of his contract because they owned Comedy Central, Viacom, and all that owned the rights to his show in perpetuity. I can't even pronounce the word, in forever and ever and ever.
Perpetuity.
You've written enough contracts, George. You know the wording. But
I know.
Yeah, they own it to all the rights and the universe and everything. Forever and ever, and so they were basically able to sell the show off, to multiple streaming services. But I guess the audience just kept applauding, during like the worst possible time when he's trying to sit there and badmouth them. So I thought that was kind of weird. But overall, I mean, I thought it was really good. I like the mic drop at the end. I mean, I like how he just sit there and just kind of threw these people under the bus and just said, fuck you, I don't care. It's like, you guys kind of screwed me over, I'm gonna call you out. At least that was his thoughts on it. But I thought. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, he did sign a contract with them. It's, not Viacom's fault that they had a crappy lawyer, had a crappy agent or a crappy lawyer or whatever. I mean, yeah, they took advantage of him. I don't think they took advantage of him because he was black or anything like that. I think they just took advantage. They probably just took advantage of him because he was young and vulnerable in the industry. So they were able to sit there and own it. Plus, it was at a time when streaming services weren't around, so nobody knew that this was going to be, a thing. So, but I did like the one thing where he's talked about how he's working with Netflix to do a bunch of specials, and Netflix was also running his Chappelle show, and he called up Netflix and he sat there and he said, hey, listen, I would like you not to stream this show because it hurts my feelings. It's very insulting to me because I didn't really get paid for this, and they honored it. They sat there and they said, yeah, you know what, you're right. We're not gonna stream the show anymore. So I thought that was, that was a kind of a nice step up because Netflix is really good to their talent, and I think that they really appreciate, or they have a good reputation, I suppose, of being good to their talent. Chris is winking at me, looking at me funny, like they're not. Maybe he knows something I don't. But from what I've heard, they have a good rep of being good to their talent. So yeah, I think they stepped up in that one. But as a producer myself, somebody who's had people sign contracts and is somebody who's read a few of them myself, I sat there and said, you signed it, bro. You signed it. That's it. They own it. Deal with it. Go make money somewhere else. Go do another show. Call it something else. But they own it. That's just he's still a millionaire. He's still not hurting for money. So I say, yeah, that's one you got to eat. So. That's my thought on it.
What about you, Chris? Now I know you're a huge Chappelle fan as well, and I know that you spent a many night in the basement of your house looking at Dave Chappelle because your parents didn't want you to watch this black guy on Okay, I'm just kidding.
Wow. They were watching it too. So okay, so there's many things that Tim referenced here. So I guess number one is that okay, let's start from the beginning. So when Chappelle came out, I was in high school. Chappelle show. I was already a big fan of Dave Chappelle. The show came out. Now, no one knew how big of a hit that show was going to be. I was excited. And the next day at school, everyone was talking about it. Now, keep in mind, this show had sketches like Prince playing basketball on a small set with a fog machine, with a hoop that you get at Big Five. The show didn't cost anything. But this is the dynamic of talent versus producer versus owner of content, right? Is that someone's taking the risk to greenlight the show and to put the money into the show to hope to get a return on the show. And Dave Chappelle was the creator and talent on the show, was paid, had a contract renegotiation that he kind of walked away from. I don't disagree with him for doing so. But should he have kept renegotiating that contract? There is no telling what he could have got out of future contracts out of them. Because at that point, he had the world by the balls. With that being said, just on a comedic level, I actually don't mind that he walked away. I thought the quality of the show was actually going down, which not a lot of people talk about. The second half of the second season was a lot of repetitive bits. And it was getting a bit watered down. But that aside, the thing about Netflix is, that might be fine, well and good that they have a good relationship with their talent. But part of that is because things with Netflix are ongoing into perpetuity. So if they're going to work with Dave Chappelle from now until forever because he's producing content for them, why would they want to piss him off? And it's really a little sacrifice on their end just to keep him happy. But they also currently have a vested interest in keeping him happy. He's producing stuff for them. And I'm sure it's stuff that's watched because every time he releases a new special, it makes news. The point about the industry being toxic is true. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I did. Not a ton, but like there's stuff that I've done that I was like, oh man, that wasn't properly pitched to me, or I probably wouldn't have done that again or done it that way had I known exactly what it was going to be. But at the same point, the perpetuity line, what do you do about it? I get it that some of these contracts are egregious, but at the same point, you can't have, Sharon Stone's grandkid coming out of the woodwork in 20 years and say, I don't like that my grandma did a sex scene. Take it down. Some of these things are just part of our collective conscious, and to go track down to feel how everyone is comfortable with the scene that was, done great and is iconic is whatever. I mean, are people going to stop watching Chappelle's show? Probably not.
No.
Would it be cool if he launched his own network? Yeah, I would maybe support it. I mean, I know Bill Burr, I believe, and some other comics had somewhat of an informal union or network a few years back where they were trying to support each other. And there does have to be some better sort of things on the artist end in a lot of these cases. But a lot of it is, you're talking about unionizing. There's big fish in the entertainment industry, and they make big money. And they also have a vested interest in not unionizing in certain ways. You have a couple people running away with all the gold. Why would they want to share that with everyone else? And at that point, Dave Chappelle was a great comic, but a small fish.
Yeah,
I'm saying that as a fan.
Absolutely. And to go back to where you first started, I believe Comedy Central, the guys people have instincts, gut feelings, and this is why they are able to make the decisions that they make. I believe very, very, very strongly that they knew that show was going to take off. And they knew that looking at the talent, that it would, maybe, but when is the question. But Chappelle, from the very beginning, was a genius when it comes to his timing. And now he gets to actually write his own content and put it on top. It was just a no-brainer for where he was in his career. Now, when we talk about contracts, it just seems very strange to me. The folks that I have heard in history, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not, the people that I've heard most being duped, dumbfounded, bamboozled over contracts, whether it be entertainment, as far as music is concerned, hip hop, jazz, comedic. They all have been black for the most part that I heard. I don't ever hear the Beatles. I don't ever hear Rolling Stone. I don't ever hear AC/DC. I don't hear Garth Brooks. I don't hear Shania Twain. I don't hear white artists talking about these contracts that are so out of the water that years later that they can't renegotiate.
Michael Jackson did screw over Paul McCartney with licensing and stuff like that. So, but I mean,
that was personal.
And
That was
we could also
personal.
consider him white at that point, I suppose, based on
Taylor Swift had to
his
just
choices.
Taylor Swift recently had to renegotiate a lot of her contract, or tried to. She got screwed out of trying to buy back her masters.
Well,
Because-
again,
because her-
but we're talking about the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She got the opportunity to do that. That's all that I'm saying. I'm telling you that there are people who don't have the opportunity to negotiate, bring it back to the
Right.
table because of the word of like perpetuity.
Right.
Someone, that word right there, which basically means forever and ever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it means. It means that there's infinity when it comes to you being able to buy back or have this content here that you have produced in any way, form, or fashion. And that's why you have people like, the people from Good Times, people from I don't know, Sanford and Son. You have all of these shows that came out that people were extremely successful, but not only they not making any money from the show, but not only that, their children, there's no legacy money involved in regards to the work that they did.
And you learn this from the entry level when you first start taking little acting gigs, and it says like credit only, or small budget things. It's gonna give
Credit
you that,
credit and copy and lunch.
and if you go on to be someone who commands money, then that was worth it. But if you don't, it doesn't, right? So like let's say okay, part of what you're talking about, George, is musicians. The music industry is worse than the film industry. It's probably worse than the porn industry in some ways. So, however, another thing is, you said the key word, Tim said, renegotiation. In the field of sports, when you have a good athlete and you want to keep them on your team and you realize that you got them at a cheap ass price, you renegotiate that contract to keep them happy and keep them. However, the guy who came out of college probably had a world of talent and got hurt. Bye. So it just matters what level you get to. Well, unfortunately, if you're not at that high level in our society, or just the way that this stuff works, you do get fucked.
Yeah, I understand that part. But I'm saying there are people who take advantage of a certain situation. There are people who can see far beyond than what we see because of their experience and because of what they've been planning. It's something about looking at a community and wondering why all of these buildings are being torn down. But years ago, in some kind of civil planning meeting in some type of city hall, someone planned to do this 10 years ago so that they'll be able to do. It's like there are some behind the scenes things that are happening that a person may not be aware of in these situations. And I'm saying with the Dave Chappelle, now, believe it or not, even as I'm a big fan of Dave's, I do have my, how can I say,
issues?
My issues with him and understanding what he's asking for. Okay, first of all, I love Dave Chappelle, and shout out to Dave Chappelle. If Dave Chappelle wants to call me, please do. First and
Red
foremost,
Rocks. Yay, yay.
I just want to say that out before this clip gets out in the wrong hands, and somebody comes back to me and said, "You dissed Dave Chappelle," because this is not a diss. This is not a diss. This is just, I'm talking to my brother about how he could handle this a little better. First of all, when I turn on Dave Chappelle now, I have to be very careful. Within the last 6 or 7 months, when I turn on Dave Chappelle, I have to be very careful because I have to first realize, number one, is this comedy or is this commentary?
Yeah.
Do you feel me? Is this comedy or is it commentary? Because if it's commentary, I'm more likely not to watch it because I want him to be a comedian. Now, I'm not telling him to shut up and dribble. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the platform that he's using for his commentary is very similar to the platform that he's using for his comedy, which can be confusing. So that's when Tim says, well, everyone was laughing during certain time because it wasn't a bit. It wasn't a bit. It wasn't something that he was using to get a laugh. He was using it to build some kind of momentum for a movement that he would like to do, that he would bring on at the very end of what he was talking about. So for me, it's the platform that he's using. Now, what I suggest to Dave is to come on to American Lunchbox podcast. This is what I suggest to Dave. Come on to America. I'm offering you an invitation to come on to American Lunchbox podcast and use this platform as your commentary and keep your comedic acts as we see them on your platform that you're using now, because I'm confused and I don't want to be confused. I support Dave Chappelle in what he's saying. I understand how a young 23-year-old with kids, that was me. I understand how someone could have offered me X amount of dollars to write and produce. I would have probably taken it as well. I would have signed, because I know I have children I have to take care of. I got a house, I got a note, I got cars, I got all of that, and I get it. And at least I'm going to be doing what I love to do. But at the end of the day, when Dave Chappelle looks back at this, he has to say, and he did, he takes ownership for the decision that he made. But more importantly, he has to say, when do I just let it go? When do I let it go?
I mean, I disagree with you somewhat, George, because he's in a position where he could actually rabble-rouse to get himself a little something here. And although I agree with that, you might not want to see it. I mean, he could do whatever he wants at this point and get away with it. Like, he is far and away the best comic alive. The second one is probably Louis C.K., but he's banned or whatever's going on there. So there's levels of comics, and there's only a few that are at that top level, and he's even above that at the moment. Now, is he the greatest of all time? Richard Pryor, George Carlin level? Who knows? It's not even worth arguing. Different time, different place.
He's definitely at that level, though.
Yeah, and it's so easy for him that he might be working on different sort of things that you don't know what he's working on at the moment. Like, that whole working on sensitivity thing might lead to some bigger bit in his next special. I mean, there's a reason why Netflix has been releasing 2 specials of his instead of just 1. It's because even if you go to pay to see him, you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes he is that on top of his game, A-game hitting punchlines, and sometimes he is slowly walking around the stage, smoking a cigarette and being reflective or trollish. And sometimes he grabs the mic and goes for until the sun comes up. Imagine that. Imagine paying for a comedy club. He shows up. I mean, you'd have to just cancel your, sorry, out sick at work tomorrow. Like, he could hold the mic until 5 a.m. and who's going to take it from him?
And I agree with you, Chris. And believe me, I know the talent level that you both all are speaking to. I remember as a young boy, and Richard Pryor did this toward the end of his career as well. Started using his platform to talk about how Hollywood had wronged him in a lot of his movies that he wanted to do, lost the control. I mean, Richard Pryor did the exact same thing toward the end of his toward the end of his career, using his platform for this way as well, as some type of soapbox and saying, hey, you know what, guys, I'm being trashed here. Look at these movies that Warner Brother and all of these other places have gotten me locked into that I don't want to do. He wouldn't even do press junkets on these movies because he had signed a contract again in perpetuity with saying that he would do these films and they were horrible. But this is what you get to when you say to yourself as a comic or as an entertainer of any kind, I have to be in control of where I am today. Now, what I did before is I'm a man of lesser means, both in talent, knowledge, and that's what happened back then. Now, if he has the power to be able to bring back the Chappelle Show and negotiate with Comedy Central, Viacom, whomever, great. I would love to see it. But honestly, I don't want to see the Chappelle Show again. I want to see what he has in the can right now. And I know it's something twice as better than what he could have done at Chappelle Show. This right here, this is personal for him. And that's what I'm talking about using his platform. This is personal. It has nothing to do with his creativity. It has something to do with he got fucked. And he wants everybody to know he did. And he wants them to apologize because as he says, his feelings are hurt. Not because he can't make any or earn any extra money. his feelings are hurt.
I don't know, George. Let me ask you this question, George and Chris. If you made a movie, I mean, we've all made short movies or whatever, or dabbled in it. If you made a movie and you hired a talent, and let's say they were kind of an up and coming, but they didn't have a name to themselves. I mean, are you going to put it in their contract that it's like, oh, you get to own partial, you get to own the distribution rights, and you get to own, a say so and this and that? I mean, no, you're going to sit there and you're not screw them over, but you're going to try to get them as cheaply as possible. Because if you're making a small budget film, you're not going to sit there and promise them the world or whatever, or try to give them more money than they're worth.
You know what? I agree with you on an independent level, and I think it's maybe selfish of me to say this in terms of talking about money that doesn't belong to me. But you know what? If Hollywood's trying to go through this transformative face change where I don't know if I agree with this, or we could have a longer conversation about this, but the diversity quotas and stuff, even for Oscar recognition, then the big players should maybe do reforms that do a little residuals, or maybe up the residuals a little, just so that we don't have situations like this. On the other hand, yeah, you're right. If I have no money, I'm not going to be paying people in the moment. And you want to be in a position where you're paying people more and then your product goes bust, because at the end of the day, let's say you give everyone a great salary and then your product makes nothing. They don't pay you for the losses you incur either. So I get it. It's a complicated situation. I don't know what the answer is.
I support Dave Chappelle, for the record.
Yeah,
I support Dave Chappelle.
Even though it's selfish, I hope it works for him.
I hope it works for him too. I love to see when talent like him swag his thing across somebody's face and smacks it with it and say,
George,
"Hey."
It's going to be great when he becomes the boss and he starts fucking people, right?
There you go. You see, and hold on. And I would venture to say he already has. But the difference is if someone steps to him, that's where it starts to be different. If someone steps to him and say, "Hey, man, this ain't right," I think he would at least entertain, at this point in his life, understanding his, where he's come from. I think he would say, "Okay, let's negotiate. Let's figure out. Let's talk to me. Let's figure this out." And I think Comedy Central is where the problem is that's where it gets to be weird, because they don't want to sit down and talk to him about it. Now, Dave Chappelle has nothing to do necessarily with how you're feeling, guys. Tim, how was your week, brother?
My week was pretty good. Didn't really do much. I mean, I played a little bit of piano. I learned how to inverse do chord inversions. So practicing with that, which is kind of fun.
Well, Tim,
Chris was texting us this week, and he sounds like he's had a hell of a time. I want to hear what's going on there.
Hold on, before we get to Chris.
Okay.
Will you tell the American Lunchbox podcast fan base on all of our platforms that one day you will do some type of piano concert or show us what your improvements are?
Okay,
Tim.
I will do that. I will start. How about this? I will start next week. I'll play a little something. I got to rewire some stuff here.
You're acting like George is a loan shark.
Yeah. We're gonna hold your feet to the fire, too, young man.
All right, fair enough.
Next Friday, I swear.
Fair enough. Actually, I've kind of
Gaza won't have to know. Take the coat. Gaza won't be wise to nothing. It's $200. Take the coat.
It was actually kind of funny you brought up about the piano. Is that I think for the last month I was trying to learn how to play Elton John's Tiny Dancer. And I kind of not gave up on that, but I took a break from that and said, okay, I need to get back to the basics. I need to get back to, playing, just regular chords and playing the notes. And I was taking this other class, and it was like I was realizing I have not been practicing the way I should. I have let kind of time slip away, and I'm not practicing the way I should. So I think I'm kind of coming back to that now. I want to practice back on the basics, and I think next week I'll be ready to at least show a little something, show a little progress, show some stuff that I've done. So
we're gonna hold your feet to the fire, brother.
Fair enough.
We're gonna hold now going back to what you said, yes, Tim. Yeah, on our ladies and gentlemen, throughout the week we have many podcasts through text messages We argue back and forth, the three of us. We talk shit, so much shit to each other. And but this week was a little different because this week, I'll let Chris tell you about that. What happened this week, Chris?
Well, we both had medical issues, George, but
I know, you're right.
Why don't you say yours first? Because they don't seem as extreme.
All right. Well, over the weekend, I had a bit of a scare. I didn't alert my family about it, but honestly, I was really not feeling well this week with the symptoms from COVID. I didn't have a fever. I didn't have any cold symptoms, but I had a very, very bad headache, and it lasts for like 2 days, and I was very fatigued. And I began to start figuring out what the hell was wrong. And now my dad, God rest his soul, he gave me some tricks, health-wise, because he was really into nutrition. He gave me some tricks to really work when you get sick. Do this, shock your body and give your body. So that's what I did. And I went and got all those things that he had told me about. And for 2 days, I quarantined myself. And I constantly just flushed my body. And now I'm at 98%. I feel great. My temperament is a little low because I'm just choosing to be a little, keeping my energy level a little low. But other than that, it was quite a scare because I have a lot of things that are going on right now. And I know this sounds extremely selfish, and this is not to take away from those who've been sick and lost lives, but I don't have time to have the COVID. I don't have time for it. I got a lot of things going, but my heart, of course, goes out to those people who have suffered, who have gone through it, and unfortunately lost their lives and families and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm feeling 98%. I'm feeling a lot better today.
George, what was? Would you mind telling the audience what your secret is, or is it a family secret?
Well, let's just say, in conjunction with vitamin C, vitamin D, lime tea, and a bit for my Italian brothers and sisters. You got to feed a cold. Though that kind of was my remedy, but I was very diligent about it. And sometimes for me, I don't eat as well as I should. I'm a very thin guy, and I can kind of get around not eating 3 times a day. And that, when that happens and something happens, I need to make sure I do that. So I ate 3 times a day. I ate 3 meals, solid meals. I ate it on time. I went outside, got some sun. I doused myself with all of these different nutrients and stuff. And I urinated about every 15, 20 minutes. And every time I urinate, I would replenish, just flush.
You didn't post that. You didn't post that on Instagram, right?
I know I didn't post that. I would, the frame wouldn't have been big enough for me to get, anyway.
Most rain we had in LA in about 6 months.
So basically that was it. So shout out to those folks that's most close to me. Of course, thank you so much for sending me some of those remedies as well, especially the lime tea. Thank you so much for that. I did get the lime tea. So that was my scare. But I'm good now.
Good.
I'm good now. Well, now, Chris, go on. Let's hear about what you were going through.
Oh boy. Okay, here we go. You know what? Let me make sure my mic is working because I'm only going to say this once. Okay. Here goes. On Thanksgiving, night of Thanksgiving, look down at my crotch, which luckily with all the food that I took in, I could still see what was going on down there. Unfortunately, I looked to have what looked like an STD. I was having what looked like boils and blisters in an area where you don't want those things. So I said, okay, this is concerning. So I go to the urgent care right before they close. And luckily I get right in. Part of it was because all the COVID people they had sitting outside in the cold. I go in and the doctor comes in. I said, "Doctor, I'm really sorry that we're both here doing this on Thanksgiving, but you got to take a look." She goes, "Are you cool that there's no nurse in here?" I said, "It's medical. Go for it."
It's all yours, Mama. It's all yours.
In my head, I thought, whatever happens next, please don't get excited.
Oh, you thought that? Oh, you thought that too, huh? Yeah.
She looks at it. She goes, "How long is this going on?" She goes, I said, I was a little itchy, weirdly itchy down there, but this just happened tonight. It seems to have come out of nowhere. And I said, I did a little bit of a bad thing before I got to the urgent care. I went onto Google for medical advice.
Oh, the Antichrist. The Antichrist.
WebMD, man.
You went to, oh, man.
And I typed in, is a rash a symptom of COVID? And of course, whatever you type in Google, it says yes. So as the doctor has me in her hands, I say, well, first I read that thing on Google. I said, does my dick have COVID? So then I said that to the doctor. I said, "Doctor, you don't think this could be COVID, do you?" She said, "No. No." She goes, "What have you been doing differently lately?" I said, I switched soaps. I ate some mashed potatoes, some instant mashed potatoes that probably I shouldn't have been eating. And she goes, Have you been sweating a lot?" I said, "Yeah, actually I've been hiking my ass off and doing other exercises as well." And she goes, "Okay, I think you have essentially what is jock itch, a fungal infection."
Ah, old school.
And I said, "Well, doctor, I got a little rash I'm seeing on my shoulder as well." And she goes, "Yeah, it's fungal things could spread. I'm going to put you on a bunch of antifungal stuff." And she goes, "Take this and go to see the primary doctor in a couple days." So I go home and I start buying all this cream, all antifungal or anti-itch. And some of it's, stuff I purchased at the doctor as well. So, I pay my copay, I go get my medicine. Okay. The other thing she says is, she goes, "Could you expose it to direct sunlight?" I said, I live in Venice. I probably could get away with it.
Vitamin
I
D.
said, but seriously? I said, "Well, I have a sun lamp. Would that work?" She goes, "No, it's got to be real deal sunlight."
Vitamin D. Vitamin D.
So I said, "Okay." So I put on all the creams. I said, I ain't doing that shit. Because you know what? I'll be the one guy out here that does that and gets arrested. So I put on all the creams. It wasn't working. I was in hell. Misery. And it was spreading.
Oh, wait. Was it itching? Was it painful? What was it?
It was like itchy. And then if you gave in and itched, it just immediately started burning badly. So you had like 2 seconds of feeling like a dog of like, and then just hell.
Was this related to your, I can't remember if we talked about it in the last show, your couch issue?
The spider bites. I don't know, because that also was going on. So then I freaked out thinking, is this bed bugs? I checked all that stuff. I was going to get a new couch. I had that held off because I just wanted to figure out what was going on. Right.
Did you have any new sex partners?
We're going to move past that, George. But so what I did was I used all the cream. And then it wasn't working. So I said, shit. I kept remembering what she was saying. Direct sunlight. Fuck. Okay.
Oh,
to answer your question, there was no discharge, George. Okay. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So I said, am I going to do this? Now, I'm not going to say on the air that I did that. But what I am going to say is that I went out with my, my basketball shorts, mesh shorts. Ugh. The radiation from the sun will get through that. And for legal reasons, of course, I'll say that my shorts did remain on, which they did. I went out to the beach and I baked myself. I stripped down to my shorts. I rolled them up like Mike Tyson rolls up his shorts, nice and short. And I just laid there for 2 days baking. And again, I didn't take it out. But what I would say is that if someone was planning on taking it out, be vigilant. Maybe listen to a podcast. But don't get distracted by YouTube videos because you never know when someone could randomly walk up. Second of all, not saying I did this, but if you're sitting in a chair and then you see someone approaching and then you cover up with your front with the shirt, understand that you could still be dangling from the back like those things they put on the back of the trucks. Not saying that I did any of this. But anyway, the antiviral stuff dries out your skin. Being in the sun dries out your skin. And both of these things weren't working because I still felt miserable. Okay. Mistake number 2, which was really mistake number 1. I go back on Google. What helps burns? What helps rashes? The answer said apple cider vinegar. I said, hey, I have some of that in the fridge. George and Tim, if you ever find yourself in the middle of the afternoon in your apartment rubbing apple cider vinegar into your genitals, you know that you might have taken a wrong turn at some place in your life. It's okay. So none of this was working. So I said, I can't wait a week. I got to go back to the doctor. So I get back to the doctor that Monday. So I said, doctor.
Wait a second. Do you go back to your primary?
Now I go to the primary. This wasn't the urgent care.
Okay.
Okay, so I get into the primary office. Most of the nurses and everyone were real nice. Real nice. Now, keep in mind, my whole weekend was spent running out of cream and going to buy new cream. My whole life at this point is applying cream, sitting like this, being uncomfortable wearing cream, and then going to buy more creams. So, okay, so Monday comes along. I go to I have an early morning appointment with a doctor, my primary, and I didn't see this guy. I don't know if I ever saw this guy before COVID. I don't think so, but this guy is totally freaked out by COVID. He won't even come close. He goes, 6 feet, 6 feet.
The doctor?
I'm like, doctor. I said, I understand, doctor. I'm not sick. And he goes, I know, but anyone could be. It's a pandemic. I go, I know. If I bring my car to the mechanic during a pandemic, okay. Okay, doctor. Okay. So he starts asking me questions from far. At some point, you're going to have to get close to see what's going on here, doctor. I said, also, just FYI, I had it was like a nothing thing, but I said, I felt like a little skin tag under my tongue, unrelated. I said, could you please take a look at it? He goes, no, don't take off that mask. I said, doctor, if this is not your job, whose job is this? And he's like, you'll have to take a picture and upload it online and send it. I'm like, doctor, I'm 6 feet away from you. Could I quickly take up my mask, go like that, and hand and go like this with the phone? He goes, that's too much. Wow. This guy was totally freaked. I go, all right, doc, that's fine. All right. I said, listen, doctor, this is exactly what's going on. I don't know what it is, but here's the story up until right now. He goes, okay, I'm going to put you on some more antivirals. And also, I'm going to book you for a specialist appointment with the dermatologist, which is actually later today. It's actually like an hour and a half from now, but at a different facility, but close driving distance, right? Okay. So I go to the other facility. I get there kind of early. So I have this list of antifungal prescriptions. And I say, I got some time to kill. Let me go into the pharmacy and let me buy all this stuff before my next appointment. So I bought most of it. It was all topical, the stuff I bought. And of course, cha-ching, cha-ching, there goes another $30. Every time you go for the copay or for the medicine, it's another little bit that all adds up, right? Okay. So now I'm completely bombed myself out with the sun, with all this antifungal. My skin is like dry now. It wasn't before. Keep that in mind. Okay. And I just have my bag full of, now this is the second bag because I have the bag from the first time. Now I have my second bag full of shit. My antifungal medication. Go see the dermatologist. He's real cool guy. He goes, I tell him exactly what's going on. He goes, yeah, I don't think it's a fungal issue. He goes, I said, doctor, I just bought $30 worth of, I could give you this for 20. I'll give you a deal. He goes, nah. He goes, it looks actually more like it's a dry skin issue. I said, now it is. Yeah. And he goes, the fungal stuff will just, yeah. He goes, you need the opposite sort of treatment. That's what I think. And I said, doctor, is it kind of weird that this thing is spreading? Because now the other thing that's happened over the weekend is I've felt it coming in different areas and it's broken out in different areas. It was startlingly getting close to my face at one point. I don't know if you could really see, but it was on my neck, which was freaked me out really bad. So, okay. So the doctor says, I'm going to put you on a bunch of different creams, but therefore more for like a rapid onset of eczema. And there's this thing called ID, not erectile dysfunction, but it's a skin thing known as ID, where something happens and then your body starts freaking out and it's a chain reaction. Rashes just boom, 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 boom. I still don't. So I go, okay, doctor, so you're telling me I have this? So I'm going to throw away this medication. He goes, well, keep that just in case. So he gives me some sampler lotions and he gives me prescriptions for more lotions. Steroids. Skin steroids.
Skin steroids. Yeah.
Now, while the stuff still is popping up here and there as it was, the steroids have like calmed me down during the day where I don't feel like I want to die. However, not counting the stuff I already used or the stuff I already had, I want to show you, for our YouTube audience, all the stuff, not all, some of the stuff I've bought and or used in the last week.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to the podcast over on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or any other platform, jump over to our YouTube station. Type in American Lunchbox Podcast and see this humongous sized red box of what looks like to be a bunch of shit.
There's different types of medicine. Now keep in mind, some of it is for if you were too dry and needed moisture. Some of it if it was for you were too moist and needed dryness. But the results are inconclusive. So now I had to start reading the tea leaves. I said, you know what? I pulled up my old late 90s, one of those suburban bracelets I had made for myself, those necklaces, those beaded necklaces. And I looked up my old backyard wrestling name. It was Big Juicy. I said, you know what? Maybe that should say something. I don't know what it says, but you know what? I'm either too dry or I'm too moist. Now keep in mind the cost of all of this shit. And here, I'll give a little audio example for the podcast-only audience. The cost of all of this, ongoing, tallied up, let's just put it this way. There goes my Nintendo Switch. Okay? Now, I told you I was keeping bags full of all the times I went, and here they are. But they got so full, they started ripping up, and then they said, you need a bigger bag. So this is the bag that I carried all my medication around in. And that was how my week went.
And today is just Wednesday. So, wow.
Yeah. The results are inconclusive. So the other thing is again, mistake number 3, I went on Google again. I typed in all the symptoms and it said, you actually might have what's the sequel to chickenpox called? When you get on
shingles.
It said you might have shingles. So that's the one more thing I want to test, because if I have that lasts 2 to 6 weeks and is viral, and that you could give chickenpox to someone who hasn't had it. So I do want to make sure I don't have that, because if that's the case, we're talking about immunodeficiency, and we're talking about canceling any upcoming plans to even get 6 feet from someone. So it's just been a long week. It's been a real long week.
Well, your family, did folks back in New York know about this? Because they're going to find out maybe you won't be there right through this podcast. I think you've got to make some calls, man.
Yeah, we'll find out. I want to, it's still a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to get some more medical advice. And again, if this gets so bad that there's something much more bad going on here, you'll never hear an update from me ever again on this. But I thought the story was funny to at least say everything that happened.
So long story short, American Lunchbox podcast audience, if you're looking to buy some meds really cheap, Chris is going to be selling them.
Go over to the Mastro Pharmaceutical Company over in Venice. Just ask for Mastro Pharmaceutical, and they will lead you to the Mastro home, where you can buy all of your dry or moist products, topical. Well, Chris, man, I wasn't prepared for that. Keep in mind, everybody, I want you to know that
I try to stay topical on the show, George.
Yes, you do. You don't want to go too deep. I understand.
Just keep in mind, by the way, just if you are going to go to his place to buy some ice cream, just look for the guy sunbathing, out in the
allegedly.
Not
actually.
Sneak up on him, and you'll see. Wow, that's terrible, man. Well, of course we're going to be thinking about you, and keep in mind, everybody, we had no idea of this story we all heard this at the same time. We've been primping and prying him to give us the details, but he refused to give us the details. I said, well, just tell her you're going to be okay. He refused to give us any details and waited for the show in order to tell us. So these are all true reactions to what he is going through here. But look, our heart goes out to you, man. We love you, but
Thanks.
Don't come downtown, bro. No offense. Keep your ass in Venice over there until you know exactly what's going on. Because last thing I need is shingles or whatever else the hell you got.
And that's the last thing Venice needed: more exposed genitals.
That's it. Not to say that you did that. No. Allegedly. Of course. Well, guys, it's been a great show. Shout outs. Any shout outs for you today, Tim?
No, but I was going to call some people out, kind of do a rant, but I think Chris kind of just dropped the mic today on his story of the week. But yeah, the one thing I wanted to call out, I guess for people that don't know, we're in Los Angeles County here in California, and we're expected to go into some more lockdowns, or at least that's the rumor. Some more stay-at-home orders are kind of upcoming. Recently, the LA County Board of Supervisors voted to suspend dine-in or dine-out dining outdoor dining. And it was just really putting more of a strain on local businesses and people that are struggling already. So it's just another stab in the back, another poke in the eye, or whatever for people that are just hurting right now because of this. And I wanted to call out two people that made the news recently. I wanted to call out Governor Gavin Newsom, and I wanted to call out LA County Supervisor Shelley, I'm going to butcher her last name, Cunal, something like that. She had voted for I think it was a 3-2 vote by the LA County Board of Supervisors to suspend outdoor dining, and herself on that same day went out there and dined outdoors by herself. And she had called it, just before the vote, she had called it that outdoor dining was one of the most contagious things, one of the most dangerous things that you can do. And I just thought completely hypocritical. And then, of course, Gavin Newsom, who's been a big proponent of social distancing, wearing masks, doing all the COVID stuff. And he went out there and he was had dinner with some friends and family and exposing them to more potential health risk. Now, I'm not saying that the precautions that we're taking right now to mitigate the spread of COVID is a bad thing. I fully support that, but I do want to call out the hypocrisy. I think if it's one thing that I just cannot stand, it is people that are hypocritical. I'll call out friends, family, anybody for that. It's that whole say one thing and do another. And we made a pact this week to not mention a certain person's name, and we've called this person out very much for being hypocritical.
Richard.
But
fucking Richard,
him too. But on the same end of it, on the Democratic end of the spectrum, yes, hypocrisy runs both ways, and I want to call those two out for, it's like you want to get reelected, you want people to support you. We need people to be supported. Do your fucking job, do your fucking job, and that's there's my little rant there that really grinded my gears this week.
Well put.
Very well put. Thank you, Tim, for that. And I'm right behind you on that hypocrisy, brother. Right behind you. What about you, Chris? Any shout outs for this week, brother? I mean, you already shouted out.
I'm gonna do a shout at, and I'm gonna shout at myself, and it's gonna be similar to the realm of COVID. Last week I was going. I've already use the term balls out enough on this show. I was going buck wild last week, and I was on some rants. And when I was listening to him back, I was like, damn, that was a good rant. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no one died. No one died. And then it started seeping into my head what I said. And I said, no one died? Oh, shit, some people died. To clarify my comments from last week, I was talking about the media's hyperbolic reaction to everything, saying that it will result in everyone dying. But I do not believe that COVID is fake. I do know of a number of people who have died. And the whole reason we started doing this show was due to COVID. So I just want to, I'm sure that clip has already been made and will already be out there with the poorest of possible context, but I'd like to throw myself a little bit of rope to make a new clip to addendum onto that clip should it come back and blow up in my face sooner than later or whenever. So there you go.
So noted, my brother. So noted, man. And even after hearing that clip over and over and over again, I did not for 1 second think that you didn't believe that COVID was real and that, because I know you. But like you said, some persons that may see the clip may not know you, or they may think that you're living in some kind of fantasy land bubble that the COVID that is not real. But we'll work on that addendum. And in the meantime,
Chris has got a few more clips, I think, this week that should make the YouTube rounds.
Let's just put it this way: I don't want to come off as flaky.
Well, let's just say that dry skin and all of that lotion you're putting over yourself, it has nothing to do with your flakiness.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Now that we're done, it's time to reapply.
Oh, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, no shout outs for me. I just want to say, in the words of my pops, don't ever let the times change the lines in your smile. American Lunchbox Podcast, guys. Peace.
See you, man.
Peace.
Have a good one.